Yeah, Shubhankar, now we are in
Third video.
we are on our third video,
Yeah.
right? And we are basically making these videos with two purposes. One is talk about the book Under the Sun and what this book is all about, of which I think we spoke very little in the video number two.
Yeah.
And secondly, since we are self-publishing, our aim is to take the viewer or the listener through the entire process of what we have undergone in self publishing the book,
Yeah.
right? So, in the last video, we had discussed about right up to I think, right up to February, when for the first time as a project team, we all got together,
Yeah.
where ownership was taken and where a lot of things were exchanged. We updated each other, and the project actually, if you really say, it took off in February.
Yes.
What I'll do is I'll take another 2 minutes. I'll just tell you where exactly we were in February, and from that point on, just take on for the work that you have done towards the self publishing of the book. Because there are so many things that we had to do internally. February, our state was that stories were all with me, almost about 85, 90,000 words. And I had sent the entire stories to Nachiket, who is in London and who, after having done his master's from Imperial College London, was also doing his job and also was actively involved with our project.
Yeah.
That is the first time 30 Word documents had gone to him, and thereafter he put all of them in one document and his editing started. Over the next about 2 3 months, he would put the track changes, and each of these 30 stories, the first level, basic level of editing was carried out, and he sent back all of them to me to review.
Mm.
And I think it must have been more than 2,000, 3,000 of changes that very, very, very painfully I would go through. After that, I would write that the files have been reviewed and they would go back to him. Most of the time actually was taken in this only.
Yeah.
And there was a point in time somewhere mid of last month where I had also put in tweet that the first editing had been done. So this was that first editing where I reviewed every change that he had made and I had sent it back to him. So now Nachiket had a document, 160, 170 page Word doc, where he had all the stories put together and his actual work started.
Yeah.
Of how to seamlessly, go from one story to another. So this was my part, the writing part, and at the same time, parallelly, our weekly meetings would go on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to cover those?
Yeah. We all started working in February. I think February till June, maybe. It was mostly you and Nachiket that were involved with the book project because it was, like you said, just the editing that was going on and finalizing of the manuscript. Uh, we were basically going as per the plan, where we decided that somewhere around June we would really start thinking about marketing for the book and how to get the printers involved and where to go. And so once all of those tasks started, that's where I got a bit more involved. And we would discuss our individual projects and the book project also in our weekly meetings, and that was extremely helpful to just so that the first thing that I noticed was that everyone was on tenterhooks because they had to say something in the Saturday meeting, and if they had been slacking off, they would be caught. And I remember being a bit wary with that and a bit under pressure, feeling ki if I don't work this week or if I slack off, then I won't be able to show my face in the meeting. And then when I spoke with Nachiket separately,
I must tell you, interject here. And this is all voluntary work going on.
Yeah.
It is all people who know each other from 15 years. Nachiket is my son, and you are his classmate, and three of us are making this, and still we were able to create this much pressure.
Yeah, I mean, we are all professionals to a degree where we feel embarrassed and we feel like we're letting the other person down. Yeah, even though it's voluntary, especially because it's voluntary, I would say. And when I spoke to Nachiket about this separately, even he confessed that yeah, I feel quite a bit of pressure during the week. I get up at 4:30 in the morning so that I can get in an hour of work.
Mm.
so that I don't feel like I'm slacking off on the job, and then I have something to say in the meetings.
Thank God I
So
had nothing to do with creating the pressure.
yeah, absolutely. No, so that was how we really pushed each other to do the work and to push all of these individual projects further, where they have come quite a long way since where we started in February with Abba Dabba, which we will be talking about more and more over the next few videos, and the project Under the Sun. I would say that we've made much more progress than we would have had we not started doing these weekly meetings. I think that has been one of the biggest things to sort of hold each other accountable towards a path of progress.
Taking down minutes of the meeting, writing down responsibilities as to in the next meeting who is going to be answering what question,
Yeah.
what targets you are setting for yourself, or what targets do I want you to achieve, or each person wants other to achieve. We started writing them down, and the next meeting would start with, we would appoint a head for that meeting whose job was to read out all the points of last meeting and thereafter start questioning everyone. And he always had to start with himself,
Yeah.
that this was my task and what have I done.
Yeah.
So probably this put everyone under pressure, because I remember being father of Nachiketan at 62 years. On the day of the meeting, I would panic and get up at 4 o'clock and say, "Ki, I must have something to tell them." I can't misuse my position as a senior, as a father, and say, "Ki, acha yaar, maine nahi kiya." Obviously, you both can't say anything to me.
Yeah.
But then you also must remember, we are talking about from February to June, and from almost 3rd April to about 15th May, these 45 days, I was completely down with COVID. So we
Yeah.
can actually write off those days. So the progress, if you really see, is much more than anyone could have done.
Yeah,
So we're
absolutely.
talking about June,
Absolutely.
and 45 days from February onwards were
Yeah.
completely written off,
Yeah.
where we did nothing.
No, I remember what state you were in. You fell sick when you were abroad and when you came back, and how you had a horrible time just recovering the first 20-25 days, I think, where you needed help with everything. And it was extremely
Absolutely.
hard to get back on track. And within that period, also, we managed to keep the ball rolling,
Meetings on. Yeah.
meetings on, and the work going on. So let's talk a bit more about where we are today with this project Under the Sun. We have spoken a lot about internally about how the manuscript is almost ready, how the first editing was ready about a month back. I think the second round of editing should be commencing. Internal round of editing should be finishing in the next week or so, and then we're working with an external editor, I believe.
Yes, we have crossed that line of the second editing within the company, within our group.
Yeah.
The second editing is over, and the samples of some chapters have been sent to a professional editor now, who actually would be doing the complete editing.
Right.
And we are just awaiting a mail from the editor.
Why don't we talk a bit more about, because I found it really interesting what I think she told you over a phone call about the different types of editing that exist within
Yeah,
a book.
okay, fine. Uh, Editing to me was nothing else but correcting grammar. I may be an English literature student, I may have a flair for writing, but then I never can claim flair for correct grammar or spellings or composition of sentences. It's a very natural thing. This is the place where the editors come in.
Okay.
I had written the script the way I wanted to. In the first and second editing, which was carried out at Nachiket's level itself, the number of mistakes that were brought out was so much that I was actually ashamed that is this what I've been writing? But then I was writing the content. My focus was not towards language, and there were very small mistakes.
Yeah.
Right? It's only after I had a long word with the editor, the lady, day before yesterday. Day before yesterday would be 20th June, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20th June.
Yeah.
I had a word where she explained to me what editing was all about. I always thought that I'll give a script to the editor. They will charge me maybe per page, word, or whatever their currency is, and thereafter they'll just give me a quote and they will correct it and give it to me.
Yeah.
It's only day before yesterday that I came to know that there are three levels of editing. The first level is called the developmental editing, in which they would get involved with the complete script, suggest changes in the script. They would look at the entire script and they carry out major changes. This means not only the story, they get involved with the complete story also, or whatever you have written. And if there are some fundamental changes to be made, they make the changes also and suggest to you.
Right.
That is called the developmental editing. The second is called the line editing. Line editing is line by line, they would check the grammar and spelling mistakes. That is, the complete book is going to be checked.
Yeah.
And the third one was proofreading, which is a complete broad thing. Just to see that, okay, they are reading it and just to see if things are not going wrong, awfully
Yeah.
wrong within the book.
Yeah.
So we have to specify
Yeah.
what editing you require.
Right.
So since we had already done our two editings in which we had done the grammar also, the English also, and as far as the content of the book is concerned, like I say that this genre no one has been writing on.
Yeah.
This probably will become the first book in this genre that we are writing. So they could not have done, the editor could not have done anything as far as the developmental editing is concerned. So we opted for the line and the proofreading.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. And again, like I say, every day there's a new learning on the job. And before 20th, we had no idea that editing was such a detailed task, that editing a book is going to be so painstaking, and that there's so many levels. And that's why probably these professionals charge so much when it comes to editing.
Developmental editing. I just get reminded of a small, I'll just tell you part of a small story which appears in this book somewhere, where a editor who has got absolutely no clue of military life would simply, after reading a paragraph or two of that story, would say, "So, what's the big deal about it?" And the story is of East back in 1987 when I was given 150 kgs explosives to be destroyed because they were over age. And it is only after I had put the fuse is nothing else but a fuse wire.
Yeah.
And these fuse wires are all Second World War vintage. They would have been manufactured now, but the technology is World War. So where
Is that still the kind of technology we use today?
yeah, there are fuse wires you definitely see at times. So I lit the fuse wire and I was sitting about 150 meters away inside a small dugout we had made.
Yeah.
And for the explosives to blow, when I heard some children singing songs very loudly in the hills, and that shrill voice of the children went into my ear. So a developmental editing, if it was going on, so there's a fine. So there are explosives which have been put on fuse, which will blow. There are children singing. So how are they connected? So unless the military mind is there, which you will come to know when you read the story, that I knew the terrain so much that I knew that there is only one track on which anyone can walk. There is no other track in that thick jungle, and that track goes within 5 meters of those explosives. The fact that I can hear the children singing, this means they are close by, and the length of the fuse that I have put, the possibility that the children would be very close to those 150 kg explosives. So, how does a developmental editing or the editor for that matter change this? For him, it's not a big deal, right? But when you read the story, you will understand why I jumped out like a crazy possessed man. I ran, jumped over from a cliff 10 15 meters down, in search of from where this sound was coming, where the songs were coming from.
Yeah, I don't really agree with your assessment of developmental editors and how they will work and how effective they may be. But what I do feel is that overall, because you have a very strong sense of how you write and what emotions you want to convey, and they are effective. It's not just me or you who says this, it's the thousands and tens of thousands of readers who have commented on your website and who have been talking to you on Twitter, who have been responding to your Twitter spaces. So we have adequate feedback that the style of writing and the way you write works and it's very effective. And that is why I would say that having a developmental editor does not make sense for us simply because we know that what you do works. And so the only things that we really need are sort of proofreading and ensuring that there
Exactly.
are no
Mistakes.
mistakes. Because one of the things that I was reading about when it comes to making a manuscript is that you just no one notices if you've done a good job when it's a good manuscript, but people do notice if like the font is off, or if there are grammatical errors, or if there are small things that only a printer or a publisher may know that usually authors don't get into, such as what is the trim size of a book. A trim size basically refers to the size of a page when it has been cut down to the size where it will be now bound into the book.
Okay, okay.
And then what are the standard sizes, and then what is typesetting, which basically talks about the kind of font you are using in the entire book and how pleasing it is to the eye. And so all of these small details that go into printing and publishing a book, that is really where these people, the printers and publishers, that's what their expertise is. But at the same time, it's nothing that lay people like you and I can't understand and can't implement by ourselves. And that is really what the learning for a self published author is going to be. That how can you sort of minimize external help if you just keep these five, six things in mind as to how exactly what your output should be basically for the printer, and how can you make their life easy so that they charge you less money. And that because at the end of the day, if you're self-published, you're just like us, you don't have a lot of money to start with, you're investing your
You
own
have no
money.
money.
It's you have no money, so you're starting off, it's like a startup. You're building a minimum viable product, you're building, let's say, 100 copies, and you're hoping they sell, and then you reinvest it and then you grow. So yeah, all of those things are extremely, extremely exciting. And
I would also recommend here to listeners and the viewers that they can save money wherever they want to. We will always tell them that this is the place where you need not save money.
yeah,
Editing,
yeah, absolutely.
hiring a professional editor. Remember the end product. If it has mistakes, they all entire ire will be directed at the author.
Exactly. And that is why the outlook that we have always had is that where are the things that if we just put, let's say, 10% more effort, where we can get a much higher ROI that people don't think about. So that is things like doing our own internal editing, just the first line of editing, and then being a bit more thoughtful to what our output is going to be like, what the fonts we use, whether they are pleasing to the eye or not, whether we know the right questions to ask, whether we approach a printer or whether we approach a publisher. These sort of decisions that just take a bit of that just require us to be thoughtful rather than put in a lot of time and effort. And then of course there are things like graphic designing when we are talking about designing the cover art for the book. That is something that is not really any of our expertise, so we're planning to get someone to do that for us. When it comes to this editing, the final editing that a professional does, we definitely decided that all three of us that we want that for our book because we want a polished look at the end of the day, even if it is being bootstrapped like a startup. And so, yes, absolutely, that there are few things that you need to prioritize that you should be spending your money on if you are self-publishing. Editing is number one for us, and like most people, if you don't have a lot of graphic designing skills, that again is one of the things that you ought to be investing on because that forms the hook That's why people who are browsing a bookstore, or if they're scrolling through Amazon, if the cover attracts you, that's the only reason why they click through to the product page. Isn't that right, sir?
Absolutely, absolutely right. Would you like to, in short, cover something to do with the internet presence? Because we haven't spoken of that even once so far. So, how have we gone around? Even I can talk. You are the one who has been doing it. We have spoken about putting it on the website colonelsanjaypandey.com. We also discussed to have a website with the book name, and thereafter we discarded that idea. We came back again and something on this.
Yeah, we'll go more into detail when we speak about the marketing for the book and what we've been discussing. That's, I think, a topic for the next episode, because that will take a major chunk of our time.
I think that will be perfect. Then
Yeah.
we can call off this video now and we go to the next one where we come right up to all the work that we have done to date about marketing. And today I think is 22nd June.
Yes.
Today is 22nd June. So where we talk about marketing, where we talk about the website and how have we done the pre-order thing and how we have appealed to the people to pre-order the book so that we have money to publish, and how we are going to be dispatching everything on 27th, and all the work which is going on in background, which I was actually very impressed today when you told me, because I don't know any of these, but yeah, it's very interesting. And since this is all part of self publishing, I think viewers, listeners, they'll find it very interesting.
Absolutely. Marketing is the most important thing for a product after all.
And I have always been saying that I am a born marketeer, I am a born salesman, and something that I really love doing.
Yeah.
But when you come up with something which I have not done, I must tell you, I feel very bad and jealous. Right?
I feel the same way.
Right then.
Okay.
Bye bye. See you
On to the next episode.
Yeah.